So today we're going to be talking about standard time versus military time. So standard time is based on a 12-hour clock. Okay, so we have 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., all the way to 11 a.m., and we even go to 11:59 a.m. And then we start over again. So we go to 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and all the way to 11:59 p.m. So we start the clock over again every 12 hours. Military time is a 24-hour clock. Okay, so in standard time, we typically need to use AM and PM in order to differentiate between whether we're in the morning or in the afternoon. We don't have to do this with military time. Okay, so 12 a.m. would be considered 0 hours. Okay, or we would say it as 0000. And 7 a.m., for example, would be instead, it would be 0700 hours. And then once we got to 12 p.m., okay, that would still be 1200 hours. But then after that, instead of going to 1 p.m., okay, we keep going. It would be 1300 hours. So we go from 0 to 24. Okay, so let's first we're going to talk about how you say military time, and then we're going to convert between standard and military. Okay, so 12 a.m., and I'm going to put our military time in blue. Most of you are going to be familiar with standard time because that's what we use here in the United States. Military time is typically used, obviously, for the military. You'll see it in government. You'll see it sometimes in medicine. You'll see people using it because, again, it eliminates the ambiguity of AM or PM. Okay, so military time. First, we want to know, how do we say it? So let's start with 12 a.m. So the 12 o'clock a.m. is your standard time. So in military time, so I'm going to put this 12 a.m. actually in red so that you know that it's the standard. Okay, so in military, whoops. Instead, we would just say 0 hours or 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, so it's just 4 zeros. Okay, so this would be military. If we had, for example, (7 a.m.), okay, we'll do the conversions. 7 a.m. Right now, we're going to do the AMs, the military time, and the standard time are equivalent. It's just how we say it is different. So 7 a.m., it would be written like this as 4 numbers, 0, 7, 0, 0, just 2 zeros. Okay, so the first 2 numbers are the hours, and the second 2 numbers are your minutes. Okay, and we would say it as 700 hours. Okay, there is no colon in military time. Okay, so AM and PM would indicate that it's standard time, and then 4 numbers would indicate that it's military time. If we have 5:23 a.m., so we're only looking at the AMs right now just to get you accustomed to how you would say it. 5:23 a.m., the way that we would write it in military time, it's always 4 numbers without the colon. So this would be 0, 5, 2, 3. And that's exactly, we would say it as 0, 5, 23. Okay, so this is how we would say it. We say it as essentially the first two numbers, whatever that is, and then the second two numbers, whatever that is. So for example, in military time, if we had 1623, which we do, and we'll talk about that in a second. If it were 1623, we would say it as 1623. Okay, so let's just do some conversion. Let's go from standard to military, and then we'll go back again. Okay, so we're going to go from standard to military. Okay, so let's just do a whole bunch of examples. Let's start with 8:16 p.m. So notice in standard, we need the AM and the PM. So how do we do this? Well, what we're doing is we're saying we're 8 hours past that 12 p.m. Okay, so we want to go, remember, at 12 p.m. instead of starting at 1 p.m. again, instead we just go 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and we keep going until we reach our time. So this is saying that we're 8 hours later. So for 8 hours later, we just take our 12 and we add 8 to it. And that's always the way that it's going to be. If this had been a 6, we would do 12 plus 6. If this had been a 2, we would do 12 plus 2. And we only have to do this when it's a PM. Okay, so 8:16 in military time, this is 20:16. Okay, so remember, military time is written as 4 numbers. And there's no colon like you'll see in standard time. Okay, so it's 2016 and it's read as 2016 in military time. So 20 comes from the 8 plus 12. So here's the 8 that we look at. So we take the hours, okay, just the hours, and we add 20. Sorry, not 20, we add 12. This should be an if. So you're adding 12 to the hours. If the time is PM. Okay, if the time is AM, nothing happens. Okay, it's exactly the same. You're just essentially taking out the colon and you would put a 0 in front of here. So let's take a few more so that you get accustomed to it. Let's say that we have 3:48 p.m. So 3:48 p.m. means that we need to add to the hours. So 12 plus 3 is 15. So we just write this as 1548. And we would read it as 1548. Okay, the 15 comes from 3 plus 12. This is a I'll fix that in a second. It's a 3. I'll make that a little bit clearer. It's 3:48. Okay, let's take another one. Let's say that we have 2:08 a.m. So this is a.m., which means that 2:08 in standard time is the same as military. It's just written differently. So in military time, the way that we would write this is 4 digits. So we would need a 0 before the 2. So it would be 0208. And that's exactly how we would say it. We would say it as 0208. Okay, so we don't need to add 12 because it's a.m. Okay, let's do another a.m. time. Let's do 6:16 a.m. So again, this is a.m., so we don't need to change anything. We're just writing it as 4 digits without the colon. So it would be 0616. And we would say it as 0616. So notice the first 2 digits are read together, and then the second set of 2 digits are read together. Okay, let's do one last one. Let's do 10:03 p.m. and then we'll go the other way. So 10:03 p.m., this is a p.m. time, so we need to add 12. So 10 plus 12, so remember you're only adding to the hours. We get 22:03. And we would say it as 22. So the first 2 numbers get read together, and then the second 2 numbers, which are 03. Okay, how did we get this? We did 10 plus 12 is 22. Okay, so the first 2 numbers here are 22, then we have 03. Here it's 0616. Here it's 0208. So we need to make sure that we're saying the 0. This would be 1548. So every 2 numbers we switch it. We read it as 2 pairs of 2 numbers. So we have 2016. Okay. Okay, let's go from military to standard this time. So remember, military to standard, if the time in military, if the first 2 numbers are less than 12, okay, then it's the same. It's just the way that we write it that's different. And if the first 2 numbers are greater than or equal to 12, then we, if the first 2 numbers are greater than or are greater than 12, not greater than or equal to, greater than 12, then we subtract 12 from those first 2 numbers. So we're going from this time from a 24-hour clock to a 12-hour clock where it repeats, okay? So military to standard. So let's do a military time of 0812. So notice that your first 2 numbers are less than 12. If your first 2 numbers are less than 12, then all we have to do is stick in the colon, right? And remember, it's the same as military time if it's AM. So this would be 8:12 AM, okay? So if the first two numbers are less than 12, our first two digits, if that's clear, first two digits are less than 12 when read together, right? Not each individual digit. That wouldn't make sense. So if the first two digits are less than 12, then the times are equivalent. Otherwise, you're going to subtract 12. And this will make sense when we do a couple of examples. Okay, so here, let's do 1502 in military time. So here, the first two numbers are greater than 12, right? This is 15. I'm going to put that as a note. This is greater than 12. So this means you subtract 12. And the standard time is PM. Okay, remember with standard time, you always have to have a PM or an AM. So what does this translate to? Well, 1502, when we subtract 12 from 15, we get 3. So this is 3:02 PM. Okay, 15 minus 12 is equal to 3. So you're only looking at the first two numbers in order to figure that out. Here, 8 is less than 12, so you don't have to subtract. But 15 is greater than 12. Let's do a few more. Let's do 0005. Okay, so 0005, this is 0 is your first two digits together, right? 0, 0 is 0. So you don't have to subtract 12, okay? So this is 0, 0 is 12, okay? So this translates to 12:05 AM. So the first two digits are 0, 0. So it's 12 AM in standard time, and then we stick in the minutes. Okay, let's do two more. Let's choose 0701. So 07 is less than 12, so we don't have to subtract. So it's just 701. And notice in standard time, we don't need the initial 0. So it's 701, and it's AM because we didn't have to subtract. Okay. One last one, 2124. So 2124. And when we do this, 21 is greater than 12. So we have to subtract 12 from here. So 21 minus 12 is 9. So this is 9:24, and because we had to subtract 12, it's a PM. Okay, so 21:24 is equivalent to 9:24 p.m. And think about it, if we were to go the other way, it's a p.m., so you take the hours and you add 12 to it, and 9 plus 12 is 21. So we have 21:24. So just things to remember. Military time is 24-hour clock. It goes from 0000 to 24:59, because that would be like 12:59. Okay. In military time, we don't use colons. In military time, it's always 4 digits. Okay. And if it's a single digit, if it's anything from, let's say 1 a.m. to 9 a.m., then you put a 0 first, okay, in order to get you the 4 digits, okay. In order to go from standard to military, if the first hour if it's an AM, your standard and your military are equivalent. If it's a PM, you take your hours and you add 12 in order to get to military time. If you're going from military to standard, same thing. If it's anything between, if your first 2 digits are less than 12 when you read them together, so like 8, 0, 7, then your standard time is equivalent and it's going to be an AM time. If your first 2 digits are greater than 12, then you subtract 12 in order to get your standard time, and it's going to be a PM time. Okay, so if you have to subtract 12, it's going to be a PM. Just think of it as the clock starting all over again once you get to 1 p.m. Okay, and that's it. That's how you convert.